Talkline Network Radio, America's longest-running Jewish broadcast network, the voice of the Jewish community.
Welcome to the podcast. You are now tuned in to this episode of our podcast. Today we are going to interview some of the greatest and most influential minds in our field. And now, please welcome your host.
You're listening to Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast on the air since 1981.
And we're back. It's been a while, but we're always glad to have Rabbi Professor Doe Fischer, Esquire, with us. He is a Vice President, Coalition for Jewish Values. He's a retired professor of law, senior editor, American Spectator. You can find him on Route 7, but I'm inviting him to our program because of an article he wrote on the Times of Israel, dealing with 80 Orthodox rabbis that said Israel should have more clarity and provide more humanitarian aid in Gaza. Welcome back to the program.
Thank you very much. Always good to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. So you are upset with 80 mostly modern Orthodox rabbis that came out with this letter calling for the Israeli government to have moral clarity and to provide humanitarian aid to Gaza. So tell us about why you're so upset. Then they made pains not to condemn Israel and also to attack Hamas, didn't call for a ceasefire, but yet they want more humanitarian aid in Gaza.
Well, I think there are a few issues at play. First of all, the very way the sentence that you began with, 80 Orthodox rabbis, they're not Orthodox rabbis. Very, very few actually are Orthodox rabbis.
Well, Rabbi Yosef Blau, who organizes it, went as Mashgiach Ruchni of was Yeshiva of Yeshiva University. You went to while you had interaction with him. He certainly qualifies as an Orthodox rabbi, the one who spearheaded it.
Absolutely. Yosef Blau had been a spiritual counselor at Yeshiva University, and there were several maybe there were 20 Orthodox rabbis there. The others were people from the so-called Open Orthodox movement. There were women rabbis, gay rabbis, rabbis that are in gay relationships. These things, they're not rabbis. They're not Orthodox rabbis. I mean, let's say a Reform rabbi. I've always said a Reform rabbi is a rabbi. You don't take away the person's certificate. If a school says you came to our school and you met our requirements and this is the title we give you, if they give you a title of rabbi, you're a rabbi. But an Orthodox rabbi, no. So I wanted to, first of all, although they portrayed themselves as 80 Orthodox rabbis, there were approximately 20 to 30 Orthodox rabbis. And if they did not include another 50 or so women rabbis, gay rabbis, etc., if they had not included them, the number would have been so palpably small, even though 80 is also a small number. Now, the letter itself was one that, Israel does not need, at this moment in her history, to have Jews pile on and attack with everyone else. She's under attack from France and from England, and Zev better than I, from Ireland and from Spain and just all over the world, not to mention the really bad guys like North Korea, Russia, Syria, China. I mean, Israel's under attack from everywhere, Australia, Canada, all these so-called progressive governments that have kind of just jumped on her. And then she's got to deal with some of the Jews on the far left who attack as well. And then there are those in the American Democrat Party. And when you start going, and then there are those on the right-wing woke, like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson. And when you start looking at that whole universe, there comes a point where there's that et tu brute, like even you, for a moment, I can't even turn my back on Jews that portray themselves as Orthodox. Even you guys are coming after me. So there's that. Within the family, sometimes within a family, you keep it within a family. And if you have issues with others in the family, you can honestly say so. Really, really strongly, but you keep it within the family. And you don't need to put it out there in the open, even if they were right and they were wrong. Now, why were they wrong? It's so.
Are you saying because these rabbis are not living in Israel, living in America?
That's
what they said, Rabbi Blau.
That's the least that Rabbi Blau just made aliyah. So on a technical basis, he just got there a little while ago, but it goes way beyond whether they're living here. I think Jews in America can speak out. I don't think they had to have been living there. I think they 50 out of the 80 are not Orthodox rabbis. But back to Israel has supplied so much food, so much humanitarian aid, frankly, first of all, more humanitarian aid than they probably should, because they don't have a budget for it. And when in all of history, Zev, has any country ever fed on any level, not to mention the massive level Israel has done, but on any level, fed the citizens of the enemy that they're fighting? Where is this in history? Did America feed Germans while we were bombing Dresden? Did we feed Japanese while we were bombing Hiroshima and Nagasaki? When in history did we feed Vietnamese? Nobody does this. Nobody does this. And Israel has fed and set up, coordinated with this GHF organization. They've got to get the food over, and they've been getting it over at the expense of their own budget. Here they've got a wartime budget. They have to cut back on all kinds of civilian expenditures because they're at war. They have to buy machinery. They have to buy weapons. They have to pay soldiers. And on top of all of that, they're sending pallets and pallets of so much food to Gaza. And you've got those people like John Spencer at the who have written about it. Others in the American military have written about that. This is unprecedented. How much aid, how much food that Israel has been giving to the citizens in the enemy camp. And suddenly you have this group of 50 or so non-Orthodox rabbis and 30 far left, off the charts rabbis going and preaching morality to Israel. It's really horrible, Zev. If you or I were together right now in Gaza, having been drafted on Miluim as reservists, really facing with our own lives on the line, while snipers are shooting at us, and our lives are in jeopardy, and for so many months in the year away from our wives and kids, and then to have these characters sign a public statement preaching morality to us, it's actually a sin. Since they say they're rabbis, the word is sin. It's a sin.
But by the way, I heard the Prime Minister of Israel say this, and I haven't seen anything beyond that, that according to him, there's been about 2 million tons of food dropped into Gaza. With that number, with the population approximately about 2 million people, we're talking about 1 ton of food for every person in Gaza.
Absolutely. Right? There's more food there. If anything, there's an issue of distribution, and that's where you get back to Hamas. But they have sent
and United Nations is at fault here too.
Absolutely. And so you've got, let's say, Hamas, first of all, interfering, because when Hamas gets at one of the reasons that in the current quote unquote peace talks, one of the Hamas demands, not only that Israel should withdraw, and then Hamas is saying they'll give up 10 of the 20 prisoners they're holding, not prisoners, they're holding hostages. But one of the Hamas demands is they want the food distributed through the UN and not through Americans and GHF, because that basically tells you what's going on, that it's a demand of theirs. We want the old food distribution because that way all those millions of tons ended up going to them. They would hijack the food. That's why we always see that they are very well fed. We saw how well fed they are during the period when there were every Sunday or so, or Saturday, there was another hostage release, and we'd see a bunch of them lined up. They're very well fed. And then all that's left over they use for 2 reasons. First, to recruit new people to Hamas. They basically tell people, you need food, join Hamas, you'll get food, your parents, your mother, your father, your siblings, everybody will get food. And if you don't join, we'll let you starve to death. So they take the food, and then they sell what's left over, and that finances their machinery, their operation. So Israel is simply trying to distribute it a different way, to bypass Hamas. And there was some bumps occasionally in the administrative process, and they've got it there. It's telling that the United Nations didn't want to support that. Hamas didn't want it. But thank God, at least the Trump administration, Marco Rubio is the Secretary of State, they've been standing by Israel. And Israel's been doing an extraordinary job. That's why Israel refers to this whole thing as a blood libel. What were the blood libels? In the Middle Ages, a little boy named Hugh, H-U-G-H, of Lincoln, England, Hugh of Lincoln, or William, a little boy named William, in Norwich, England. Each of them was found dead, stabbed to death. Nobody knew who murdered them. Hugh of Lincoln, William of Norwich, and rumors broke out. Rumors. The Jews did it, they said. They said the Jews did it to get the blood of pure, innocent Christian children to make baked matzah for their rituals. Terrible lies. Where'd they come up with it? And it just spread like wildfire. And even though there was absolutely no basis for it whatsoever, it spread all over the countryside of England. By the year 1290, they expelled all the Jews from England. And this is a new blood libel, where you have the New York Times. I mean, look, the way they post those photos of kids, emaciated bodies, it breaks your heart. And then you find out the kids didn't starve. Kids got that way because this one had cerebral palsy. That one had another disease that I can't pronounce. They had these neurological diseases. There was a mother who looked horrible. She was emaciated. And the media made it sound that Israel had caused that with. And then it turned out she had leukemia. It's a blood libel accusing the Jews, or the one country in the world that is identified with the Jews, of murdering non-Jews. And they haven't done that.
Rabbi Dov Fischer is our guest. He is the vice president of the Coalition of Jewish Values, retired professor of law, senior editor of American Spectator. Also, you can find his columns in Rocheva. He also was affiliated with the Jewish Defense League of many, many years ago.
Yeah, I was rambunctious when I was in college.
Well, there is no groups like the JDL today.
I don't
People always
see it.
ask me all the time, but with anti-Semitism growing, you don't have Jewish defense organizations around in the same way you had in the 70s and the 80s.
And I think if there were a JDL today, and if it still were that JDL, a lot of the things that happen on campuses never would have happened on campuses.
Why
Problem
is
is
that?
Jews don't fight back. You go to a college, and you get 100, 200 yelling "River to the sea." There are not 100, 200 Jews at the same campus to come out and yell, "Yeah, from the river to the sea, Israel will be free." No, they all hide in their dorms, afraid, and that gives courage to the haters that there's no downside, there's no counter. If there were a JDL, there would be a psychology for other kids on campus to teach kids. Don't cry. Don't hide in your dorms. Stand up, proud, and in large numbers. But once you lose the first round, then what happens is a lot of people who would not have been coming out and did not come out in the outset, they saw that's the thing to do, and there's no downside. And if it had not been for the election of Trump, God knows what would have happened this past year on campus.
Well,
But thank
thank God
Trump.
that we have a different administration. But here's
Oh,
something
yeah.
to consider, by the way. We're sitting on a story of a
Mhm.
dentist in New Jersey who had a rally, actually was a real estate event for Israel. And at this real estate event for Israel, there was a counter demonstration. There was a demonstration of Hamas and all these terrorist-loving groups. And one of them was beating up a Jew. And a dentist stopped this Arab or Muslim from beating up a Jew. He hit him. And guess who got arrested? Guess who's facing all kinds of problems? Is it the one who was beating up on a Jew? No, it was the Jew who defended himself. So we're in that kind of world today when even when Jews defend themselves, he's instead, and I spoke to him, we're just waiting so we can present it on the air, but he's having a whole bunch of legalities based on the fact that he was stopping somebody from beating up a co-religionist.
I hear what you're saying, and the truth is that's what happened at UCLA a year and a half ago, where a couple of Jews got together to fight back, and the LA police were sicked on the Jews. You're right. You're right.
That's the problem. We live in a climate, and I heard other cases where Jews, were at a rally and they said something, and they were arrested for saying Am Yisrael Chai because it was the Hamas terrorists were demonstrating. But they don't arrest the Hamas people; they arrest the Jews. And you hear these, time and time again. So I know that part of your ideology is that Jews make aliyah. Are we facing limited days here in the United States?
I think things are in a way that I don't buy into the premise that this is 1930s Germany. I don't buy into the premise that we're down to the last 5 years or so. But if Trump had not been elected, even if it had been a different Republican, a John McCain or a Mitt Romney, I really think it was really closing. It really was getting bad. It took the one in a generation, and Trump has his faults. I don't go around MAGA, MAGA, MAGA. That's not me. But despite his faults, he's amazing, and he single-handedly has led a culture war to try to turn things around. And what might have been a horrific second year of this at the universities, suddenly Columbia was looking at $400 million, and Brown was looking at being closed down, and Harvard's facing $1 billion and is being asked to open the books on all of their foreign students and what their records are. And we're seeing deportations of a whole bunch of them. And what he has done, Jews don't appreciate him enough. But what he has done, he's probably added a whole new generation or two of life, of years to the Jewish experience here. But even so, the flip side, you look at Mamdani in New York, and we may not have the door closing completely on American Jewry, but Zev, the door may be closing on New York City Jewry.
If elections were held today, Mamdani will be the next mayor of New York. And the truth is, I've been talking to various Jewish leaders. The problem is that no candidate is dropping out. Andy Cuomo's not dropping out. Eric Adams, the mayor, is not dropping out. Curtis Liu is not dropping out. So you have, they're already fighting each other. They're not really fighting Mamdani. So, and I asked Lita who you endorsed, and they said, well, let's wait till the dust settles, which I understand where they're coming from. But by the time the dust settles, guess what? It's going to be late to mobilize people. And I'm urging people to go out to vote. We're not registered to vote. We're not even voting those that do the registration. And I think it's incumbent upon us, but we're complacent, unfortunately.
You're absolutely right. That's actually, I'm not saying Mamdani is Hitler. I don't go around saying every person is Hitler. He's pretty bad, but he's not Hitler. But that's how Hitler got elected. Hitler did not have a majority. He had a plurality. There were a lot of others people running, and he got in with way below 50%. And the other tragedy is not only exactly what you said about how none of the other three has dropped out or seems ready to drop out.
And will not drop out, in my opinion.
I agree with you. And the other tragedy on that one is that there are about three of the most, well, certainly two are the most unattractive of candidates. Eric Adams, he's been a friend of Israel, of the Jews, but my goodness, you couldn't get a more unattractive mayoral candidate with all the things hovering over his head. Meanwhile, Andrew Cuomo, he was so bad that he had to resign as governor. And just recently, comparatively, and Sliwa, aside from everything else about Sliwa, the reality is that a Republican is not getting elected mayor of New York at this time. There was a time where Rudy Giuliani could be. Bloomberg was partly a Republican, partly a Democrat. Sliwa, thank God he took off that beret and started standing around like a regular guy, but no. So it's going to be a shame. And the result is that the New York City Jewish experience is coming to an end. I'm not saying they're going to be physically wiped out, Hitler Nazi style, but it's going to be very, very hard for Jews to live in the city. And so many have moved to Long Island, and a great many have moved to Florida, and others have moved to Israel. Yeah.
Well, this might be a boon for aliyah to Israel. Who knows?
Yeah. Just like France. The irony is, Zev, that if all the Jew haters around the world would only have treated Jews well, Israel probably never would have had a population. It took the anti-Semites of the Tsar to send all the Jews from 1881 to 1914, after the assassination of Alexander II, to send all of them off from Russia to Israel. And then it took the Arab countries in the 1940s and 50s to suddenly expel all of their Jews, 900,000 Sephardic Jews from Edot HaMizrach, the North African Jews, and they got expelled to Israel. And it took France in the more current period. There was a period when it was Argentina before Javier Milei, and Israel just, and then again the Russians, the more current Russians under Kosygin and Brezhnev and the communists. And that's how Israel really got so populated. There were idealists who came from America, Canada.
Well, anti-Semitism fuels aliyah. Let's be
Oh
realistic.
my goodness. Not only fuels, it's probably 2/3 of the population. If they really hated Jews and understood what they're doing, they never should have done what they did, because
Actually, I disagree with you. If you look at the record,
Yeah.
People from Hitler's Reich, was it Eichmann, I believe, went to Israel and wanted to transfer Jews from Germany to Israel for whatever
Yeah.
reason it worked, but it was on their radar screen that let's get rid of the Jews and move them to Israel.
very early it
Right,
was.
the 1930, right, 1935, 36.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember the exact year. I remember reading about it, about Eichmann. So they did have it, but unfortunately, Jews didn't go, and the final solution. And then after the Holocaust, a lot of those Jews moved to Israel.
Yeah.
Our guest is Rabbi Dov Fischer, Esquire, Vice President of the Coalition of Jewish Values, retired professor of law, senior editor at American Spectator. Also, you can read him in the Rucheva, and as I mentioned, also former leader in the Jewish Defense League. I want to get back to the letter of 80 modern Orthodox rabbis. You, in your article in the Times of Israel, condemn open orthodoxy, saying it's not orthodoxy, but you may not like their theology, but they're considered themselves and considered part of the Orthodox spectrum, but more to the left-wing Orthodox spectrum.
What happened is open orthodoxy made two very wrong turns in their progression. While they were trying to push orthodoxy to the left and really move the envelope to the far left, they picked two issues to die on, and they couldn't have picked two more problematic issues. Number one, women rabbis, and number two, the whole LGBTQIA plus agenda. Here's the problem. There are certain things where if you push left, there are enough people in the mainstream center-left Rabbinical Council of America and Orthodox Union who almost would go along with it, or at least put up with it, and even accept them. But they went in two zones that even the center-left RCA, Rabbinical Council of America, and OU, Union of Orthodox Jewish Congregations of America, couldn't go that far. Number one, women rabbis.
But they don't have women rabbis. They call Maharat, Rabbah. They flirted with, going a little further. With the term Rabbah was discontinued for Maharat. So they're not officially a rabbi.
And you know what's interesting, Zev? Several of them do now sign themselves as rabbi.
They can, but as far as what they received from the Maharat school is They're called Maharat.
Correct. Maharat, Maharat. And some of them, as you said, call themselves Rabbah or Rabbi and other such terms. So what's happened is, in the crazy way that Orthodoxy works, Let's go further to the right. Agudat Yisrael, the so-called Haredi, or the so-called black hat community. The Haredi world, there's nothing to talk about. And the centrist world of Rabbinical Council of America cannot go in the direction of women rabbis because they would be completely cast out by the Haredi world from Orthodox Judaism. They can't go there. RCA cannot go there. And for whatever its reason, open Orthodoxy, so-called open Orthodoxy, chose to die on that cross. Two crosses. One was women rabbis, which never was going to gain acceptable.
But they don't call them women rabbis, and I don't, from what I've read,
women clergy.
Okay.
Women clergy, let's go with that.
Okay, but they could be the chaplain. And by the way, you have Orthodox women chaplains instead of Haredi too. I've seen them.
Okay. You have like a yoetz at halacha,
okay,
a consultant on halacha. You could have women teaching Torah classes. You could have women in a whole series of roles, but not clergy, whatever title it goes by. So RCA ultimately passed a resolution by the organization. It's the last organization-wide resolution that they have passed. I've been a member there close to 20 years, and the way it works at RCA is they don't really pass resolutions per se, but along the course of a year or two, the executive leadership will issue a position paper. You can call it a resolution, but for a resolution that comes...
Our guest, Rabbi Dov Fischer. And he's in California, and we're looking at the situation dealing with 80 modern Orthodox rabbis. And we'll reestablish kind of with Rabbi Dov Fischer. He also is a columnist, and a senior editor, I should say, for American Spectator, retired professor of law, and vice president of the Coalition of Jewish Values. We're looking at 80 Orthodox rabbis who signed a letter saying Israel should have more moral clarity, calling for humanitarian aid to the Gazan residents, even though, as I said earlier, according to what the Prime Minister of Israel said, more than 2 million tons of food have been dropped onto the area. Okay, thank you for listening, and this has been a very special broadcast with Rabbi Dov Fischer, and look forward to speaking with you again here on the Talkline Network.
Thank you for tuning in to Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast, the pulse beat of the